Hello, we are Group G, and we'd like to share our thoughts about the art series of Edvard Munch. And here are the content. So I'm Tan Sim Yue. Before I introduce the artist, let me share one of his memorable quotes, which links to our theme that we will talk about later. Illness, insanity, and death were the black angels that kept over my cradle and accompanied me all my life. We like this quote as Edvard looked his tragedies into different perspectives. He embraced it and converted into the inspiration field of art. Here are some biography highlights about Edvard Munch. His life begins on the 12th of December in 1863 to 25th of January in 1944. He is a famous Norwegian painter and printmaker who consistently explored different fields such as painting, graphic art, sculpture, photography, and video. In the late 19th and early 20th century, he became the pioneer of Expressionism, Symbolism, and Post-Impressionism. The most expensive artwork, The Scream, was painted by him, which was sold around $120 million in US, which was the number 3 among the 4 versions of Scream. After reading his biography and artwork, I would like to describe his personality as reclusive, depressed, and anxious person. Munch's life is full of adventures. We will classify his art career into 4 stages: early life, childhood, exploratory, agitate, and reborn. The childhood stage of Munch was very depressed. Both his mother and sister died because of tuberculosis, and in 1968 to 1977, when he was very young, and even himself was experienced nearly death. He was very weak that only drawing became his hobby he can do at home. For the stage of exploratory, Edvard originally is an architect student in Royal School of Design, but he later realized he is more interested into art, so he enrolled to the Royal School of Art and Design of Christiania. After a few years, he debuted his first painting of the Autumn exhibition in 1893. And the next year, he engaged with Christiana Bohemian community, which embraced the materialist atheism and freedom of belief. This changed Munch's brief affairs, caused him intensify the connection he saw towards woman, love, and death. And in 1889, he had his first little career success to hold a solo exhibition. However, his father died at the same year in November. This brought a huge crisis to him, which let him distract himself, focusing more on art to forget his sadness. Thus, he developed his own unique culture and arose public controversies that caused an exhibition shutdown within a week. During the stage of agitate, Munch had several love relationships and affairs before, but his most suffocating relationship is with Tuna Larsen. But their relationship degenerated after the engagement. During the breakup argument, Larsen shot Munch on accident, which caused his left hand permanently handicapped. Munch felt love life stimulate his art inspiration. He later displayed the Frieze of Life in Berlin Sensation. He developed better style and led to a rebound of his art career. But at the same time, his physical and mental health deteriorates at the 1908. Suffered from the nervous breakdown, returned back to Norway, he searched for mental recovery. The drawing style shifted by drawing the natural landscapes with full of life and energy.
Next, I would like to talk about his family, which has a huge influence on his painting style and his life. He was the second child among 5 siblings. His mother and 1 sister died from tuberculosis when he was young. His older sister was diagnosed with mental illness, and his brother died at his 30 years old from pneumonia. His father was a fanatic Christianity and had mental illness as well. When he was suffering from tuberculosis, his father instilled a deep-rooted fear of hell in him. This traumatic family experience is one of the reasons caused his lack of trust and safety in the world and live in fear of that. And painting is one of the approach for him to relieve and express his feeling. And these 2 paintings is the paint is the artwork he paint about his family, and this too is all about his sister. Edvard Munch's painting usually mainly use life, love, and death as the theme. He can think that the mental state of the subject, the people in the painting surrounding resonating with their inner emotional state. But in his late year, he went through a mental breakdown. Then his painting became more positive and extroverted. As you can see, the paint that the artwork he painted after in his late year here. He had tried so many different painting styles in his life. The first style he used was naturalism. In his early year, he enrolled on an art school, and his painting was affected by his teacher, a naturalistic painter, Christian Korb. As you can see, these two paintings is also as he painted in his early year. Then he went to Paris in 1885 and studied briefly at a local art school. His paintings at that stage were affected by post-impressionist painters Gauguin and Toulouse-Lautrec, and these two artwork is his painting in after he went through Paris. Yet he thought that Impressionism gave him insufficient expression. The turning point is in 1889. His father died, and he felt remorse that he had not been with his father when he died, and he couldn't express his feeling of grief by painting the death scenes. After that, he got into expressionism and symbolism to express what's in his mind actually. And this too is also painted after his father died.
And the reasons of choosing Edvard Munch as our presentation target is because we think he had a miserable life in reality. Thus, most of his famous paintings are related to the matters of human mortality, which are not quite usual to see. Secondly, we are very curious about how he developed such a masterpiece and with a unique style that inspires many artists, such as Andy Warhol. And thirdly, we want to discover the reason why he devoted his life into painting and how he reflected his anxiety into art. Moreover, the reasons of choosing the series Frieze of Life is because it represents Munch's interpretation towards the meaning of love, which equals to the impressions of life of the soul. We think the series resonates us the most, and the emotions from the artwork are very strong that we can feel the connection to the artistic sentiments. Thirdly, we want to uncover the creative inspiration behind and determine the underlying conceptual framework about the artist's work. At last, we want to know why his work is continued impact on pop culture, since it is still common to see the derivative work on the internet.
I'm Angie Chow. Now let me introduce you the selection of Edvard Munch's Frieze of Life, which is about life, love, and death. In 1993, Edvard Munch launched a series of paintings shortly after he arrived in Germany. The selection named Frieze of Life. I believe you are quite impressed and familiarized with this painting. These familiar paintings are included in the Frieze of Life selection. He described the selection as a poem creation about life, love, and death. From 1893 to 1907, almost all his works focus on this series of themes. Frieze of Life has not only become the most representative work, but also consolidate his immortal position in the art world. Frieze of Life can be roughly divided into 4 stages: the seed of love, the flowering and passing of love, ends, and death. Frieze of Life is not only artworks in specific format, but a rearrangement of many original works to interpret Munch's views on life, love, and death, so that ordinary people can also deeply experience the idea that Munch wants to convey from this painting.
I'm Liz and I'm going to talk about our theme, Love to be Anxious, Anxious in Love. It suits the life of Munch because he has anxiety in loving himself and the people around him. This is resulting from lacking of love from family since his family members died one after the other during his childhood. His father, who was morbid to pietism, a cult developed from Christianity, always reprimanded him to be feared for everything. His dad once told him that the angels of fear, sorrow, and death stood by him since his birth. Besides, he couldn't enjoy a normal and happy school life due to a constant recurrence of illness. Even when he grew up, he always anxious in relationship, since his desire was opposite to the reality about love and a company. Therefore, in his whole life, Munch was insecure, anxious, and fear in loving someone. But inspired by his anxiety, he had created a lot of masterpieces such as The Anxiety, The Kiss, etc. He also once said that his life would like a ship without a rudder if he doesn't have anxiety. Art, what Munch addicted to, also became a tool for him to express his anxiety.
I am Jeremy, and now I will talk about the artwork interpretation. In Friends of Love, there are four main themes, which are the seed of love, the flowering and passing of love, anger, and death. For the first theme, the seed of love, the painting we will explain is The Kiss, which created in 1897, and the medium is oil painting on canvas. The style is symbolism, and Edvard Munch is inspired this painting by Kiss by the Window for the topic of kiss. In the painting, you can see the couple is hugging and kissing, and their faces are blurred and fusing as one, no particular features on their face. The art elements used in the painting is straight line for the environment, such as the window, to show the weight and distance, and the curved line for the main character, which are the couple. The change direction can means the posture of kiss and hug to provide a comfort and ease feeling. Edvard also used freeform shape for the couple's face. For the color used in this painting, there are contrasts between the inside and outside of the room for the environment. In outside of the room, there are colorful and light fields to provide vibrant and lively feelings. There are dark inside the room, which the only light source is the daylight from window. And the main characters, which are the couples, are lighter than the environment, so they are outstanding. And for the space used, which are the outside and inside of the room. The art principle used is symmetrical balance, since both left and right of the couple are the room environment in similar proportion, but the fields are different. And the emphasis is the couple, which they are in lighter color and the biggest size in the middle, so they are the most eye-catching in the painting. This painting can give two views, which are romantic and evoking death. Since hug and kiss in the couple are passionate and tender atmosphere, so they can bring other togetherness and belongingness. It shows them they are union as one. But merging of two faces may mean loss of identity and individual existence within the world. You can see that the larger one, which is the left man, looks like therefore his lover. So from the color environment and face of couple, Edvard Munch was doubtful to love and romance, since love is romantic, which brings the light sources, but also may devour himself, which brings the darkness.
As a collection in the flower and passing of love, the three stages of women's themes, created in 1895 under the style of symbolism, is selected, and it is an extended creation of red and white. Let me briefly introduce the character in this drawing. Starting from the left, The angel, who is in long golden hair and pure white dress, symbolizes virginity and purity. The whore, who is fully naked and posing seductively, represents lechery and passion. The stony-faced nun, who is gowned in black, refers to repent and guilty. Apart from the three women, Munch also includes himself in the darkest and deepest of the wood. In this masterpiece, Munch mainly used color, lightness, line, and space to depict the images of the characters. Talking about the contrast in color, the angel, the whore, the beach where the angel stands at is in warm-toned colors such as white and yellow. These create images of comfort, happiness, hope of these two women. Even for the angel and of white, it expresses her pure and divinity. Yet, the nun and Munch are in black. For the nun, it expresses feelings of agony and guilty, while Munch expresses fear and anxiety towards women. The contrast between the two people on the left and right associated with the gray background emphasize the presence of angel and whore. Besides from the color, the spotlight effect also helps emphasizing the angel since she is the brightest in the drawing. Hence, viewers would be guided to focus on the left, which is the lighter first, then to the middle, lastly to the right, which is the darkest. This implies the priority of the three stages of woman. The using of line also brings out contrast and emphasis. Firstly, the vivid curvy line, which depicts the movement of wave and the edge of the beach, gives impression of freedom and relaxation about the two people on the left. On the other hand, the straight lines on the tree trunks is dull and express the image of the two people on the right as boring and taut. It brings out the persona of the character. The tree trunks are even extended outside the drawing. It forms an intangible and oppressive cages to captivate Munch. This conveyed that Munch cannot relaxingly get along with women. Additionally, the triangular composition of the angel and whore have attracted more focus of them. Talking about the space, the spaciness on the left, which indicates freedom, and the crowd on the right, which indicates suppression, bring out a symmetrical balance. It also conveys the suppression of nuns and Munch's life, or even suffocate for Munch in relationship since he's in the deepest in the wood. Additionally, the overlay of whore and nun may express that the lechery of a woman may always lead to regretfulness and guilt at last. Composing all these visual elements and principles, the drawing is conveying that the three different stages of woman in Munch's perspective. At first, women are all pure and divine. When just begin a relationship, women would become passionate and lecherous. When the passion blows out, only regretfulness and guilty remains. This drawing shows the obsessions of Munch to women, but confusion about women is more. He couldn't outguess the mind of them. This made Munch insecure and anxious in every relationship, since woman is a mystery to him. And at last, his anxiety led to the end of a relationship, inducing a more severe anxiety and depression to him.
Here is another artwork in the Flowering and Passing of Love series. Melancholy was painted in 1894-95. This painting was inspired by his friend who has an unhappy romantic affair. This painting has 7 versions in total from 1891 to 1896, and it is the 5th version. And this artwork mainly used the curved line, and for painting the man on the right side, Munch used less dramatic lines on it to create a separate space between the man and the scenes behind him. It also used a diagonal line and curved line to create the movement of water waves. And the front of the painting is darker than the back of the painting, and Munch used the fun shortening technique, such as to paint the pier and and to create a distance between the couple and the man. For the color usage, the man was wearing a heavy black coat, which represent his sadness, and Munch used a darker value on the man and his surroundings than the view behind him, like the black and brown color he used, aim to express and create a sad atmosphere. Besides, we can see the ocean here actually contain blue and purple color, which are the cool tones color. They represent the sadness, despair, and loneliness of the man. And also he used a bit of red color, which also belongs to a warm tone color, which represent his desires of happiness, like he wished he has a happiness like the couples behind him have deep in his deep down. This paintings is also have use a asymmetrical balance, like you can see the man here occupies half of the painting, and the other half is a landscape and the pier. We can see this paint artwork gives us feeling that a man head in hand, and seems like he was powdering, feeling a bit sad, and he turned away from the pier where a couple was walking and ready to get on the boat. It feels like the scenes of the happy couples actually made him feel more pain. Also, as I've mentioned before, Munch used dramatic lines and front shortening technique, and the couple is actually subtle and far away from the main character, which is that man, and it makes the scenes seems like an imagination from the man.
Here comes to the intersection of the first date in Feast of Life, ends. The artwork I would like to share is the Scream, one of the most famous paintings in the world. The medium of the Scream is painting. In 1892, Edvard Munch, when he was walking with two friends during the sunset on the Edvard mountain, the sky became blood red suddenly. He then sensed an endless scream passing from nature, and this experience gave him an inspiration to create the Scream. There is 4 versions from 1893 to 1910, and the picture and the painting I show you is the first version. In terms of shape and line, swirling lines are used on the nature background, the sky and the sea, and also the outline of the man, while rigid straight line and rectangle shape are used in the 2 people behind the man and the bridge. On one side, there is a contrast between the nature and the supporting role, emphasizing the main theme and the message the painter wants to tell, which is the endless scream from nature and the anxious man's scream. On the other side, the contrast may reflect that the nature is imposed on the civilization with an uncontrollable power. And in terms of color use and light saturation, the color used in the painting is mainly red, orange, and blue, while green, gray, dark blue, and purple color can be seen on the small lines. In terms of value and intensity of color, the light colors such as the red, orange, and blue color used are bright, while the dark color, blue and gray, are dull and near the black area. So we can observe that the bright light color and those dark dull color form a strong contrast. By seeing the color contrast used in painting, we will naturally focus on the high intensity of the blood red sky and the dramatic expression of the man on the bridge. Besides, there is a usage of color complement, for example, red complements green and blue complements orange. And the strong color contrast and complementary effect can effectively show the extremity of the scene. And then for the balance and proportion, I can see that there is a symmetric balance used in the painting, as the man occupied half of the painting while the other half is the sky and the sea background, and also the two men. Also, we inspect the painting roughly by looking on the overlooking point, and the proportion of the man and the nature background is almost half proported. Therefore, I can see the distorted and volatile environment and also feel the violent emotion of the man. Lastly, for the feeling and meaning, I feel the scene show his anxiety as the man screamed and so threatened face in scene, and I also can feel the expression of anxiety and scare, as the man in the painting expressed his scare by screaming out. I think that it is a message that the painter wants to tell and hope the viewers can get resonance from the painting. And what resonance is that I think in the modern generation of fast-paced and tense life, sometimes we just scream like the man in the painting and release our suppressed anxiety. Yes, it is depressing to encounter something that's worrying, but we should not suppress it in our hearts. But when necessary, we should solve the trouble that makes you anxious and release the pressure to ease your emotion, so as to maintain a good mental health and live happy days. And that's the resonance I get from the painting, to scream out and feel your anxiety. Thank you.
Here is Yoonki again, and I will talk about the last artwork we will introduce, which is By the Deathbed in the last theme, Death. This painting is created in 1896 and the medium is oil painting on canvas. The style is expressionism. Edvard Munch is inspired this painting by his older sister's death, and the first version is the pastel on unprimed cardboard. Well, the first impression is that in this painting, you can see the left-hand side have a person lying on the bed and the body folded over the pale green bedspread. In the right-hand side, 5 people wearing in black and stand beside the lying person, and their faces are alternately pale and red. In the bottom, a hand is stand up from the black area. For the art elements used in this painting, Edvard used curved lines to draw this painting, to bring out the feelings and emotion from the characters. Also, he used short lines and black dots to draw out the face on the characters. The right woman has most details on face, and the others' facial features are shortened to short lines and dots. For the color used in this painting in environment, he used the complementary colors, which brings the strong contrast. You can see the wall is painted on red, which means fever, and the bedspread is painted by the pale green, which means disease. The characters are wearing black clothes, which means mourning, and they have white face means fearful, and red face means unpeaceful. For the art principles used in this painting, he used asymmetrical balance. You can see the left-hand side is a lying person and 1 mourning family member, and the right-hand side is 4 mourning family members. The contents of both sides are different, but still look like balance, since both sides of them are human drawings. For the movement, the 4 family members at the left are looking to the lying person, but the right woman is looking the hand from the dog, so that there are not 5 family members for the lying person. Since from the emotional, eyes and expression and posture, the 4 family members are mourning the lying person. You can see the The man who is red-faced is praying, and the man which is white-faced is closing his eyes, and the red-faced woman is using hand to cover her face, and the white-faced woman is hand down her hand. They are all facing the lying person. However, the white pale-faced woman, with a detailed, pensive face, she is looking a hand from the dark, which means the hand is hers, and the hand is knocking to the head of the bed, which means she is foreshadow the imminent death of the lying person. So the woman is the death to foreshadow the patient to die. Since Edvard Munch has experienced many death and illness when he grew up, such as his mother and sister and father's death, also his body was weak and in his childhood. So he has fear of death overshadowed in his childhood. So he thought his parents' house had sickness and death, and he could not get over the misfortune from the house, so death became the decisive for his art. So the death, which is the right woman, sneak into the family, act like the mourning her family members. Actually, she is evoking the death. And this is the reference that we used. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.